Welcome back to the show, everybody. Could the U.S. dollar be reaching another Plaza Accord moment? We're going to take a look at the charts. Then we're going to talk about what the wealthiest people in the world do to maintain their wealth. You're going to love that. And we're going to also take a look at XRP breaking point. It's coming, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow us on Twitter and YouTube for exclusive content. Right now, $1.33 trillion market cap for crypto. It is up 2.1%. Good morning, everybody. 30,600 plus for Bitcoin at the moment. It's up 9.3% on the 7-day. Ethereum, $2,100, almost even. 12.2 on the 7-day. Tether market cap, 80.7 plus billion. Can you believe it? That much of a market cap, and the U.S. government has not voiced an opinion about how they feel about a private company selling a U.S. digital dollar and not showing any of the reserves properly. 52 cents for XRP. It's up 3.1% in the 24-hour and 4.6 on the 7-day. Let's get started, ladies and gentlemen. It's right here. Link to where you can get private equity in amazing companies that they've offered. And I tell you right now, Link to itself, I think, is an amazing company. I love it. PolySign, we know, is transformational and transformative financial technology, providing institutional investors and cutting edge technology in custody. I tell you what, there's so much good coming with that. We're going to hear from Jake Claver from Beyond Broke in just 1 second here. Ripple, by the way, how long is that window open? Ledger's up here now. All the incredible companies behind the space are on this platform. If you want private equity, you need to be accredited. Click the link below, check out the sponsor. And listen here what Jake Claver from Beyond Broke says about what the wealthiest people in the world do and about how you may be able, if you're an accredited investor, utilize custody through PolySign.
Ideally, you do exactly this. So you find a custodian that will hold your assets, and then you will find somebody else that will lend against those assets, because loans against your assets are not taxable. And that's what the wealthiest people in the world do with their private equity and all of their other resources. They will acquire assets and then take loans against them to live their lifestyle or invest in other things. So you don't experience any capital gains tax with that. So you'll be able to park it. And this is speculation, but based on the conversations I've had, makes sense. You'll park it with PolySign. They will custody the assets for you, and then you would go to Goldman Sachs or Fidelity or Merrill Lynch or one of these other financial institutions, and then they will issue the line of credit against it that you'll be able to draw down at a low interest rate.
And there you have it. Shout out to Jake for that information. And again, reminder that we know that Jack McDonald from PolySign has said that they do intend to service accredited investors, but not retail. So that is something to take note of. Now, let's move to the overview of what's going on in the economy and with the dollar. Former U.S. Treasury Secretary Lawrence Summers is warning about troubling signs that the United States is losing global influence as other powers align together. You know that they're talking about BRICS and everything that's happening here. Egg Rag Crypto shows us the dollar index, which is known as the Dixie, and it says here, show me the chart and I'll tell you the news. Below the chart is for the next 7 years. Plaza Accord, we covered that here on this channel. Last time in 1985, the Dixie touched the high end of the white channel right here, right? Got rejected heavily. Boom, as you see. At the time, Plaza Accord agreed among the G5 nations that France, Germany, and the UK, and the US, and Japan. The goal of the Plaza Accord was to weaken the US dollar in order to reduce the mounting US trade deficit. Weaponization and de-dollarization, what pumped the Dixie to touch the high end of the white channel, and so far got rejected, was the process weaponizing the dollar. In my opinion, Egg Rag Crypto says de-dollarization is by design being implemented because the U.S. will get choked if the Dixie doesn't fall. Everything will be very expensive to produce import. It says here, madness, some chart analysts betting that the Dixie will break out of this descending channel and hit previous all-time high up here even. Understand that a high dollar may effectively transfer demand from the U.S. economy to economies globally. As a result, other world economies, Europe, Asia, etc., may see a boost in their exports from the strong dollar. This means U.S. kicking their, purposefully. The next 7 years of the dollar will fall by design. The chart is saying the story, and charts do not lie. So whether it hits here, as it has done, and continues that fall, or whether it even pumps, as some say, to the former high before we see a fall. Either way, it is looking like history is going to repeat in some shape, way, or form, whether it's now or shortly after. So this is something to watch very closely, ladies and gentlemen. No doubt about it. That's why I tell you about Glint Pay all the time. And you can check out that link underneath from my sponsor as well. Several analysts have weighed in on the possible implementation of BRICS currency in fighting unilateral sanctions and the hegemony of the U.S. dollar in international markets. Now, see, the reason we're talking about this isn't just the danger of what it means for the dollar. It's because I believe it's pointing to we need a solution. We need something to come into play that can help relieve the spillover shocks of such a moment that is obviously coming to us. Whether it's sooner or later, I don't know. But I think all the analysts and experts out here agree that there is a moment coming. And I think all the experts also agree that Bitcoin won't be the answer for that moment. And I take no pleasure in saying it. But as Sweden drives final nail into Bitcoin's mining industry in their country and region, the 6,000% increase in taxes per kilowatt hour of energy may ultimately destroy the Bitcoin mining industry in Sweden. And I have said it multiple times, and I'll say it again. Governments can regulate or tax Bitcoin out of existence if they want to. Don't believe it. It's still true. So what's left to serve some kind of moment of a Plaza Accord where there's a dollar devaluation and a huge decline in the dollar because of that devaluation? Or what happens in the moment because of a BRICS coalition and introducing a new reserve currency for themselves inside of their coalition and financial system that they've built, which continues to expand, by the way? Well, in my opinion, and it does not have to be yours, it's something like XRP, which is a bridge digital asset, and it can bridge digital assets seamlessly. You can get on a waiting list right there. Then there's this throwback right here from Dilip Rao and his time at Ripple. And I think it's important in a moment like this for everyone to hear these clips again. There's been a lot of XRP FUD recently on the announcement of the Ripple Liquidity Hub because XRP wasn't originally written in those remarks. And as it turns out, we were correct that it was simply the marketing department not trying to get out in front of its skis because of their waiting for a ruling in the SEC versus Ripple case. But listen to these remarks. They're very powerful, especially now. Even more powerful than when he said them in 2018.
So we're still in the early stages. In that model, the MSB doesn't have to hold any XRP. So the exchange is taking the risk of holding XRP and the volatility of that. And that's the starting point. And you have to think about this is brand new territory. Nobody has done this ever. So you have to take baby steps and get everybody comfortable, with it. We're doing retail remittances to start. Why? There's low value because the liquidity is not deep in these markets. So if somebody wanted to do a corporate transaction, that's immediately like $10, $100 million. There's not enough liquidity for it. So banks will watch that and say, right, how's that going? And is that cheaper? Is it faster? Is it better? Because banks want somebody else to try it out and say, okay, that works. Maybe now we'll jump in. Actually, back in 2016, we did a project with 12 banks to use XRP between themselves, just as a technical trial. They loved it. It didn't work. They said, okay, instead of having a multiplicity of account relationships that we have to have with each other, 12 banks would have had to have 144 relationships with each other. They just used XRP and moved it between each other and said, this works. So they've already tried that out. And we know that that's the holy grail. But they will take time to get there. And regulators also have to feel comfortable. The volatility has to come down, as I mentioned. The markets have to get deeper. This just takes time. So at this point, to answer your question directly, we don't have a bank that is using it, but we have MSBs starting to trial it. But my expectation is that sooner rather than later, banks will use it because it makes sense.
Now listen to this clip right here where he explains who the escrow is really intended for, and it makes sense because it's intended for the entities that can bring use case to the asset itself. Remember, liquidity plus utility equals value over time. Miguel Villas.
So what Ripple has done is taken about 55 billion of the XRP that we have and put it into escrow. And the idea is, again, to provide stability of supply. So every month, we have 1 billion Ripple, XRP available for us to do whatever we want with. If you don't use it, it goes to the back of the queue. It's all under a smart contract. And the idea is to say, we will dribble this out so that there is not an immediate, big overhang of XRP on the marketplace. But ultimately, all of that XRP will be owned by institutions that want to use it. And
all of that XRP will be owned by institutions that only use it. That's the goal. And as he said in the earlier clip, it is a baby steps phase-in operation, which I think should be a really obvious to anyone who's been in this space for a while.
And whether they use it for nostril replacement or they use it as a bridge currency or potentially for other use cases. So we are certainly beginning to now look at what are the other use cases you can have for this, given the high-performing network that we have. So it will take time, but as that is used to sort of create deeper markets, I think the utility of XRP will in fact grow, and that's kind of where we are headed with it.
Absolutely, and it is so relevant today, even more relevant today than when he said it in 2018 because of the moment we're in. And again, just to highlight here, there was a lot of hubbub here about XRP not being listed in the Ripple Liquidity Hub announcement of its launch. But I think it was pretty obvious to most of us that, and they added this language back in. It was not in the original thing, but they added it back in. And it was exactly as we had said yesterday, as we had speculated, and we were right about that speculation. XRP will be evaluated along with other tokens for support within the product. We look forward to supporting XRP as it receives regulatory clarity in the U.S. There you go. They're not trying to get out too far in front of their skis, knowing that they're waiting for a ruling at any day or any time. Now, this language is absolutely in here before they made that correction. Importantly, Liquidity Hub reduces the need to pre-fund capital positions to source liquidity in transactions within multiple venues. Now, I asked that yesterday before they changed the language and said, and how do you think they're going to make that happen? Because they use XRP to do it. Now, let's take a look at this. This is from Merlin Crypto Future Invest here. And if you haven't been in this space for very long, take a look at what happened in years past. And then I want to show you what I personally believe needs to happen before we could really see a moment like that take place again. He says, we're blessed more than we care to remember, though there is that nagging thought, what if I bought it then at a fraction of a cent? Remember, future price will beat that record, he says. In 2017, early 2018, XRP reached an all-time high of $3.40, marking a 51,709% increase from its original price at the beginning of that year. Although it has since declined, XRP remains a significant player in the cryptocurrency market and is consistently ranked among the top 10 coins in terms of market capitalization. The team behind XRP and Ripple continue to work on development of the XRP ledger and its potential use cases in the global financial system. Overall, XRP remains significant and influential cryptocurrency in the world of finance and technology, and that's why we're having XRP Las Vegas, and that's why it's sold out, because this technology really does solve real problems. And right here is a great reminder from the one and only CTO, David Schwartz, that we still need that top-down adoption that we don't have, that we saw in the birth of the internet. Take a listen to this clip. This is David talking about the founding days of Ripple really quickly here. Listen to this.
Yeah, at that time, so that was probably mid to late 2011, sort of two cracks were emerging in the Bitcoin narrative, such as it was at the time. Obviously, the narrative was, most of the people were technical enthusiasts. They were very interested in the technological end, and they weren't as savvy about like how to drive adoption. The only strategy that anyone could think of was a grassroots strategy. And that's not how the internet got adopted, right? The internet was adopted by government and military first. So it's
That's a key point. The internet was adopted not by grassroots, but by the top down, by governments and such. Well, isn't that what we talk about a lot here, is about a value protocol being adopted by a government or governments? Isn't that what Chris Giancarlo, the former CFTC chairman, talked about in a conversation with the Federalist Society? Isn't that what he talks about from the chair, Giancarlo, from the Digital Dollar Project, that it's worth considering? It sounds like the moment and the key component that's missing from this space. Because we already have the internet that was first adopted by governments and military, right? Where's that moment now?
like the amount of money I borrowed. Like all of these other use cases need great payments. And so we just sort of laser focused in on payments. And I think the other thing that we did different from the very earliest days was everybody else, including us in the beginning, had this ground up strategy. Like if you don't have a strategy, your strategy is get everybody to use the thing that I think is great. And I think a lot of companies are still pursuing that. But I think there's also a sort of top down strategy. And that's kind of what the internet did. Like the internet got governments to adopt it. They got universities, they got sort of big players. And so we decided, what are the biggest players? They're banks. And we went after banks. We probably should have aimed a little bit lower than that. The problem with banks is obviously like banks are a big deal. Like any crypto partnership with a bank is a big deal. But the problem is banks are slow moving. And they're not, and especially, and the bigger they are, the less interested they are in innovation. The very biggest banks talk about how important innovation is, but really, if they could push pause on technology, they would. Why, right? You know, why would they not want to freeze time where they're now like right at the top? And so aiming just a little bit lower, you have people, you have companies like non-bank financial institutions, payment service providers. These are companies that have the resources to make a big difference. Like scoring one of them using a cryptocurrency-based system matters. You know, it's not like, you know, you don't have to get thousands and thousands of them, but also they're agile and fast moving.
And there you have it. And I personally believe, because I understand that we still haven't had the adoption from the top down with blockchain, distributed ledger technology, and digital assets broadly, but we see a lot of motion headed that way. Even on the G20 level, the EU crypto framework for the entire European Union, jurisdictions. Are you kidding? I believe that a positive ruling providing clarity in the SEC versus Ripple case for XRP can open the door for just such a moment. And I remain enthusiastic while I wait for it, because I don't know when it would happen. That's going to do it for me, not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.